Parker! What the?
This is Oh So Curious. This week it's four curious minds trying to tell time. I'm Andrew Frankel. I'm certain, I don't know what the display is, but we got Brian, we got Rolan, we got Daniyal. It's going to be a good one. We're talking the new Spider-Man movie.
Yes.
There's a lot to get through. We're going to keep the spoilers for a little bit later. We're going to tell you what you need to know first. And you better believe we have some opinions. How are you guys doing today?
Andrew, can I just say you're
fantastic.
amazing. You're doing such a good job right off the bat.
We've hardly done anything, but the
Right
bar
off the bat,
is,
we're doing good.
it's gonna be a good day. So you guys saw the movie, right?
Yeah.
Actually, just got out of the theater. Yeah.
Hey, I saw it on the opening day, or I guess they call it preview day because I saw it on Thursday. It was like 5:45 Eastern time, but I know they were playing the movie as early as like noon almost. So I was in one of the first screenings, but I got one of the early ones.
That means you and I
how
were
was the
watching it at the
theater?
same time.
Wow. How
On
far
opposite
away?
ends of the United States.
Oh,
How long ago did you get your tickets, Dan? Like, how far did you pre-order?
Well, the night that they released them. So basically, they released them midnight. I think it was a Sunday into a Monday or something like that. Yeah. So they released this. Did that on midnight. I tried to get them. I was up until like 2 a.m. anyway, doing other stuff, and I was like just going through the websites, and the websites were crashing, and you couldn't get tickets. So no matter what you tried, Fandango, Atom Tickets, AMC, Regal, Cinemark, like I tried virtually everyone. So I then, in the morning when I woke up, I went to, I think, atomtickets.com, and then I tried it again, and it worked. So I got it literally the Monday. They call it Spider Monday. That's when I got my tickets. The interesting story behind my tickets is not so much when I got the tickets, it's about how many times I got the tickets. So I have a very busy schedule where I just had to like kind of find a way to like fit this in. And I initially bought the tickets for Saturday, a matinee show at 11:50 a.m. because that was the only time I was going to be reasonably, free. And then the person I was going to go with told me like, I can't make it. I have to be somewhere at 3:30. The movie's not going to be done by then. Like, if you go to the AMC at like noon, they have like 20-30 minutes of previews and trailers, and then the movie is 2.5 hours long in and of itself. And you have to wait till the very end because there's a credit scene after, like there's a post-credit scene and a mid-credit scene.
I'll be honest with you, I did not stay for the post-credit scene, so you can tell me about that.
Well, it leaked online anyway, so.
Oh, good. I'll go back and watch it.
And it's not really a scene, but anyway, and then I had to switch. So then I bought tickets for later in the evening on Saturday. I still got some decent seats and at Dolby Cinema, but then I thought I was gonna be working that evening because one of my on my schedule it showed that I was, and then I realized that I wasn't gonna be doing any work in the evening later on because I just read my schedule wrong. It was just a mess, so I ended up buying Thursday tickets and to a standard showing, not like Adobe Cinema with the bigger screen, better sound and everything. And laser projection.
Let's remind the viewers too that Daniyal has 3 full-time jobs, so he's very busy.
just about.
All that to say, like this was not an easy movie to get tickets to.
No.
Like
I mean, it wasn't, but I got like
there was a
sets of
lot of hype.
tickets
There was a
in
lot
1
of hype
week.
for this movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, people didn't even know it was good, and they had already bought tickets. There were people buying tickets. How did it shattered some records? Did it not?
It shattered a lot of records. I mean, it's on track. We're recording this on Sunday, and as of this morning, it's on track to make 253 million domestic, which is the highest take of
that's
any movie in the
crazy.
pandemic era by a mile. Like the next closest one was Venom, Let There Be Carnage at 90 million, so it way blew that out of the water.
Yeah.
And internationally, it's got, I think, the third highest box office opening behind, I think it's one of the Star Wars movies, and I think it's Endgame that it also beat out. So it's breaking records. Its opening day was one of the biggest, 121 million. Its previews were like 50 million, which was like in the top 3 all time. and is doing all of that without China. It's it's not playing in China. It's not likely to play in China, and all those
Which
other
is
movies.
really
that
impressive.
Take that, China.
Yeah,
We
that's
don't
really
need your money.
impressive.
All the other movies that it's competing with on those lists, which are above it or below it, most of them were playing in China. So
During the pandemic era,
yeah, like that and
I mean,
that. So it's been doing really, really well.
I mean, it's not even doing pandemic numbers. It's doing like before that. It's reaching its own thing.
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
insane.
it was tracking for somewhere between 180 to 250 million, like domestic opening.
Jeez.
And obviously it's gone even beyond the high end of that number, which people were like, if it hits 250, great. If it get anywhere close to it, fantastic. But it's gone above it. So clearly, everybody
is
went
it
to see
living up to the hype? In your opinions, what do you? I mean, you guys, we've all seen it. No secrets here. Is it good?
Oh
What are
my
people
gosh,
thinking?
it's so good. It's
We
insane.
have one. It's
I
I
so
think
good.
it might be. Yeah, it's definitely one of Marvel's best.
I
Wow.
watched it with
I
three
mean, it
different
was that
people.
good.
I watched. Sorry, Brian.
No. Go ahead, man. I want to hear this. You watched it with 3 different people.
Well, I was gonna say I watched it with somebody that has watched like so many movies, watched all the Marvel movies, all the Spider-Man movies, growing up, and recently, in like the past couple days, I watched it with someone that's watched like, pretty much all the Marvel movies, knows like up to date with the Tom Holland, and then my girlfriend who has never watched the movie in her life, so I got all the different kinds of perspectives, going into this movie, and each and every single one of person was like, that was amazing, that was so cool, I was just pulled into it, I felt for the Spider-Man and just everybody else, and I laughed and cried and all these things. So it was.
I'll say I have not been keeping up with the MCU, and from my favorite Spider-Man, it was the first Spider-Man I ever saw. Spider-Man 1, 2, 3, Tobey Maguire. That was as good as Spider-Man was ever going to get.
I'm
for
the
me.
same as you, Andrew. I haven't really been keeping up. I mean, I have friends that have kind of been keeping me up with it, but I'm the same way. It was the same way with me. I mean, Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3. Tobey Maguire is the original. So
Yeah.
I
I
can
will
relate
say,
for sure.
I was entertained. I was captivated, and they did bring me up to speed on a lot of things effectively. And I did have fun. That's not to say I don't have some criticisms.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
Well, before we get all to criticism, I gotta
Uh-huh.
say, and I think I already in our group chat I put this down a couple of days ago after I watched the movie. I was like, that movie made me feel things I haven't felt watching a Spider-Man movie in almost a decade.
Yes.
or certainly not since the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Like the last two Marvel like the MCU Spider-Man movies to me, and any of the other appearances he's made in those Avengers movies or any of the other MCU movies in general, they just haven't quite done it for me, And this movie was, it treated nostalgia well. It didn't treat it like a gimmick, and it respected the characters that it brought in that were not part of the MCU before, and it also, I felt like, gave more dimension to the Spider-Man characters that were in those other two movies that he's already done, like with the Tom Holland version of the franchise. It's but I think by far the best of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, and
Oh yeah.
and dude, when you add, I mean, it's not a secret, right? I know we're keeping away from spoilers for now, but it's not a secret. Willem Dafoe's in the movie as the Green Goblin coming back, and Alfred Molina's back. When you bring those caliber of actors back, I mean, I think Willem Dafoe by himself. I'll just say this right
he
away.
looks the same almost, like as if he
Yeah.
did
I
in the old Spider-Man.
Did you guys put there's like on the internet, if you Google it, there you can see a picture of him side by side at the 2002 Spider-Man premiere
Oh, man.
and at No Way Home premiere, and it's uncanny how similar. I mean, you could see slight differences in age because maybe it's the hairstyle or whatever, but
The
it's
guy's
like he looks the
66.
exact same.
He's 66
age.
years old.
And it's 19 years apart.
Right.
It's insane. And
Yeah.
I'll say this, he's easily like in that one movie where he's not even like playing a new character. He's reprising a character from 19 years ago.
Yeah.
He, for me, is already like a top 3 MCU villain, and
Oh
that
my
right
gosh,
there,
Yeah.
testament to his ability as an actor.
Yeah. I mean, he defined that character. You say
Yeah.
Green Goblin, people only think Willem Dafoe. Some people don't even know Willem Dafoe's name. They go, "Oh, Green Goblin."
Yeah.
He's
But
he's
honestly,
the guy.
name a Willem Dafoe movie where he doesn't kill it.
That's
Let's
true.
be honest.
Yeah,
he's
there's
such
a lot of
fantastic
validity
actor.
to that. There's a lot of validity to that.
I'll elaborate a little bit
agree.
more on the Green Goblin later, because there's some things that I want to talk about, but I don't want to get
Sounds
to.
juicy.
I'm just trying to be respectful to the viewers listening that don't want the spoilers and just kind of want to hear our brief opinions on this.
Well, so where should we move from here? Having talked about, like, let's see, is the audience seems to be enjoying it, not just the four of us.
Mhm.
And I'm a tough nut to crack when it comes to enjoying a movie, and I did have fun. I had a fun time.
That's saying something.
Yeah,
that's
that is
a really
saying
good. Yeah.
But
Dude, you said it was okay. I can't believe you said it was okay. That's
Daniel,
like what
just,
you would
just,
say
Daniel,
about-
Daniel, just take it. Really, I think that's the best you can.
I'm not gonna enforce my opinion on yours, but I'm just saying I thought it was better than okay. I mean, it's sitting at 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a critic rating as of Sunday when we were doing this.
Wow.
And it's got a 99% for audience score, which if you go off Rotten Tomatoes, those numbers are the best that any Spider-Man movie has ever done. But even like the word of mouth from those other metrics, like Metacritic and stuff, those are all like coming in pretty high as well. A lot of the people that went to see this movie were within the 18 to 34 demographic, which is like exactly what Sony would be aiming for. But everybody was going to see it. I mean, I haven't really seen a whole lot of people say anything bad about it. It's even the people who are like being as pragmatic as they possibly can. They're not bashing it. They're not saying it's a terrible movie. They're probably just saying, I liked it, but like.
I don't think you're going to see that though, because it was such a treat for like the Marvel fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bring it with the whole nostalgia aspect of it.
I mean, what do you guys think about the idea of what they did in this movie? Because here's the thing, right? Like, we've seen this happen in recent years with other franchises. Like Star Wars, for example, is a big one, where you do something new, and yet you bring in something from the past, whether it's an element of the story, a character, or you revisit something that, a plot device or something to that effect, where it's got a built-in audience. There's people who grew up with that obviously hold it tight in their memories, and now you're sort of revisiting that and then maybe building upon it. And it's very hard to strike the chord right with the audience so that you bring in a new audience. The people who love the new version of the franchise love it just as much as the people who are coming in from the older versions. It's very hard seemingly to strike that balance, and a lot of movies have struggled to do that. Like, what do you think about this one?
But Daniel, has there been a movie that has truly done that? They've basically brought back different dimensions, bringing back the original actors.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, the Incredible Hulk, they didn't do it quite. They didn't bring back the same character, but Lou Ferrigno had cameos in the Ed Norton Hulk movie.
Yeah,
How long was his
he always
cameo,
makes
though?
a cameo, yeah.
How long was the cameo?
Tiny, but a cameo's a cameo in my book.
Well, I mean, Linda Carter had a cameo in Wonder Woman 1984. I mean, that was done well.
But Andrew, to this magnitude, though, I mean, bringing back, Garfield and bringing back Maguire,
Which, by the way,
how long
spoiler
has it
warning,
been?
but
I mean,
it's at this
Maguire,
point everybody knows. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Spoiler
Way
alert.
to go, Brian. Oh my
Spoiler
gosh.
alert.
They
the
have
rest of
doing
this,
so good.
they
and then you
have
came
to
the
in.
rest of
Expect
this broadcast, we're not holding anything back. It's all the gates are open now.
the spoilers are coming out now.
Spoiler alert.
So
Spoiler alert.
Andrew
Spoiler
Garfield
alert.
and Tobey Maguire are in the movie as Spider-Man.
You're kidding.
You had to know it. You had to know. I mean, come on. Every time they asked Holland about it, it's like, come on. You knew they were going to be back in this movie.
I accepted it though. Like before I went to the theater, I was like, I'm not gonna see them. Like there's probably some schedule conflicts. Like that's just too much to add to it. Blah blah blah. This and that. And I was watching the movie. I was like, they're not gonna do it. They're not gonna do it. They opened the portal. I was like, that's Holland. It was just a really easy fix. And then he jumped out. I was like, ah! And the crowd lost it.
When Tobey Maguire came out in my theater, people applauded.
Oh my, yeah.
They were.
I was literally the only
cheering.
one in the movie theater to say yes. I literally heard myself
You would be.
just go yes, and then that was it. Like that's all you heard. Like,
But to get that reaction is is something that like that's why I go to the movie theater. Like that was something like everybody was like, I'm not gonna be quiet and just like keep to myself. Like this is weird. Like you're in a dark room. Nobody's gonna look behind.
Yeah.
Like
everybody just let it out, man.
Yeah, they just let it out. They cheered.
Yeah.
They were happy.
Yeah.
I was so happy. I was so giddy.
Hey, I'm not afraid to admit I had tears in my eyes at times in this movie because, and it
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
really the part where
I did too,
they
though.
came in.
I really did too.
It was just later in the movie when you get to see some of the interactions between the three, and then when, like, I still remember how hard that scene when Emma Stone's Gwen Stacy character dies in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Like that was one of the better moments that I think any Marvel film.
Such a touching moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it
Like,
took him
that
back.
hits hard. Like it's like when you watch Logan. Like if you watch Logan and now once you get into the third act, it's like as soon as you get to the part where they're in that forest scene and they're trying to get across the border to Canada, and like if you've already seen the movie, you know what's coming. You're like, oh god, no, I can't. Should turn it off? Should I switch away? I don't want to watch the end.
Yeah.
But you watch it to the end, and you go through the emotions, and like the Logan is obviously a great film, but that's kind of how I felt about the end of the Amazing Spider-Man 2. And then in this, I mean, there were obviously rumors, speculation that in the trailer he's gonna fall and something's gonna happen, and MJ is gonna fall, and Tom Holland Spider-Man's gonna try to save her, and then something's gonna happen that he gets pulled away, which obviously happens, but Andrew Garfield then gets to redeem himself, and But
that was a nice touch.
Yeah,
that was a nice touch.
That killed me a little bit. I saw that and I just thought that was so beautiful and sweet after hearing how much like no matter whatever time is passed, like it still affects him. So
I mean, Andrew Garfield's such a fantastic actor. I mean,
so underrated as a Spider-Man. Yes.
Yeah. He's, in my opinion, he's the best Spider-Man. Still is. He's also, I think, the best actor of the three who has played Peter Parker.
Okay. I hear you.
So
I think he's good, but I don't think he's the best. I mean,
again, well, that's all subjective, but I mean, in my opinion, he is. So to me, that moment like stood out that much more because of that. Because I always thought, that they kind of left that version of the franchise a little too soon. Like maybe they should have had a third movie.
Yeah.
Although the second one, ended on a decent note, but I just always felt like that was left incomplete. So like to give him that sense of closure was good to see. Because again, like Brian was talking about, they didn't just do cameos in this movie. These were more than just. They weren't glorified cameos. They weren't cameos at all. I think it
was like the perfect amount of content, to have them perfect.
They were
amount
a part of
screen
this
time
movie. Like they were supporting characters in this movie. There was Peter 1, 2, and Peter 3. They were equal
it was the perfect
almost.
touch to me to bring them back and show appreciation to the fan. And
it'll be interesting to see if there's any tie-ins with the next Into the Spider-Verse movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like the whole multiverse thing, it's getting really messy. If they bring Tom Holland into that, or because they could, they absolutely could. I mean, what they've done with this movie is they've basically said everything's free game. We can pull anybody from anywhere. It's the multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right at the end where when they heal Electro, I suppose, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Andrew Garfield Spider-Man takes off his mask, and then Electro says, Jamie Foxx says, "Oh man, I thought you'd be black." I hope it's somewhere in the multiverse. There's probably gonna be a black Spider-Man sometime. Like he said something to that effect.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's
Did you hear what
that does
Andrew
not go
Garfield
unnoticed.
says? Did you hear what Andrew Garfield says to it? He says, "Oh, I'm sorry, man."
I'm sorry, man. Yeah.
the comedy let me just say comedy in this movie, the writing was brilliant. I thought it was so good. Just like the little I don't know, bits and pieces in there, like between Garfield and Maguire, and it was funny. I love the part that got me was when they started talking between the three of them. They started talking about
Peter
Maguire being the web, being able to shoot the web.
The web thing was funny.
That was hilarious.
Because fans always wanted to know. They were like, how are they going to address that part? Because he's the only one who shot it out of his arm.
I like the fact that they made fun of the whole concept, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that really got me. So
they really did such an amazing use of separating comedy and tragedy. Like they let themselves be sad for a little bit, and then they would joke. They wouldn't do it at the same time or end this really serious scene, which Marvel usually does, with a joke and just cheapens the whole thing. Like
I'm
you know what I
actually
mean?
glad you said
Yeah.
that, because this is my bone to pick with the MCU franchise right now.
Yeah.
And that's that Deadpool happened, and it was like, we're always going to have an element of self-awareness in our movies. We're always,
course.
the audience, we're always going to be kind of sideways glancing at the audience, being like, are you watching the show? Are you watching the show? We see you. And when I'm watching this, and I compare it to what it was like to watch the original Spider-Man movies, and Tobey Maguire, he's an earnest Spider-Man, and he still is that in this movie, but we're so emotionally invested from beginning to end with that. And at no point does it try and push you out of the story. And I did feel a little alienated by the humor and the audience references throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Particularly when they talk about, like, I'm Peter 1, you're Peter 2, I'm Peter, and he goes, I'm Peter 3, and it's that, you know, I'm commenting on, yes, clearly I'm the least popular of the three of us, you know, fine, I only got 2 movies.
Yeah.
Which, like, yeah, it's funny, but some of these things I was watching, I thought, these are things you would normally see, like, in a blooper reel, as opposed to being in the movie.
But, so, I mean, are you saying that you took that as, like, a negative, or would that...
I did.
Was that...
Yes, I did.
Okay. Because, I mean, for me, it was... I think for the first time in a long time, a Marvel movie has truly done a good job of balancing, like, the bathos part of it all, and then the self-aware humor. I think they haven't really it's, you know how the MCU divides things into, like, phases. I don't think MCU has really done that self-aware comedy sort of aspect humor well for, like, since I think, like, phase 2 or something like that. It's like, you know, it's been a long time since I've actually had fun with the banter that those guys go through and, like, the self-aware meta stuff. I mean, here's the thing: if you're a filmmaker here, you're like, well, there's gonna be a whole lot of meta stuff happening in this movie as is. Can we just walk the line? Do we not cross it at all, or do we just forget there's a line at all and just walk all over it? And they went with, you know, the last of those options. They were like, we're gonna deal with this head on. We're gonna, like, embrace the funny stuff, because most people watching this, like, are gonna want to, like, see if we address those aspects. Like, you know, oh, you fought these villains, I fought those cool villains. Oh, I fought, like, a Russian dude and a rhino thing. That's all I did. Oh, you shoot, like, your web out of your arm. I want to know how that works on the inside. Like, you know. It's like those kind of
when
things.
he cracked his back too, that was
that
was funny.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. I'm just waiting for somebody to walk in on that, but that didn't happen. I was like, oh, okay.
I guess I have to agree with Andrew a little bit now that I start to think about it, because there were some things where it's like, did you really have to put that in there? Like,
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe there's this famous meme where he's like, you know, I'm something of a scientist myself. And I was like, did you really have to put that in there? Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cheesy, but
And here's just to push that point just a little bit further, is the rewatch value of this story is cheapened, because that's it makes it the right medium is seeing this in a theater for the first time, because you're going to be wowed by things you haven't seen in a long time. You're invested into it. Now that you know all of these jokes, now that you know the surprise is coming, is the movie going to hold up the second time you watch it? Are the jokes going to be, like, because
I almost went to see it a second time, but I didn't.
Yeah.
But I see your point. I was kind of, you experienced it differently, because then you're enjoying it for a different reason. You're not enjoying it because you're like, oh my God, they did that. But it's more because you're like, oh, look at that, they're doing it.
It's like a bunch of surprises, or it's like dubstep, where it's like there's a drop and then there's another drop, and it's like, yeah, but I know when the drops are. I've listened to the song 40 times. You know, it loses its potency.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. It's kind of, I guess I'm trying to compare it to another example of that where I've done that. Well, like, for example, I think in, like, the Guardians of the Galaxy movies are about as close to, you know, in terms of, like, meta banter that they have.
Yeah.
The second Guardians of the Galaxy movie doesn't quite have the rewatch value that the first one does. I think the first one is so infinitely enjoyable. I've seen it more than probably any Marvel movie.
Really?
Any MCU movie, I should say.
Wow.
Because it's so much fun. I mean, it's very, like, I look at it as, like, there's movies that are you have to sit through and watch and kind of absorb, and that there's a lot to take in. And there's movies where you can just, like, pop it on and be like, oh, I'll have so much fun watching this, it would be like a breeze. And you can enjoy both kinds. Like, you know, like I'll say on one end is Logan. There's an emotional roller coaster that I go through watching Logan, and I'm like, I don't like to do that all the time. Whereas Guardians of the Galaxy is just such a fun time. Like the first one again, not the second one. The second one was good, but like the first one was so much better. That movie I can put on and watch anytime.
Roland, you disagree?
I disagree.
Well,
we don't have to get too much into it, but really, you think the first one is better?
Really? You mean like, so you're comparing just the two Guardians of the Galaxy movies?
So just the two Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, no, the first one is way better.
I disagree. I think there's a better use of music. You see more development with the characters. I think the use of ego was really well done. I don't know.
I mean, I disagree on ego.
I don't know.
I thought
I connect more with Guardians of the Galaxy 2, so maybe that's my problem. But
yeah, I mean, it's a mix of like how if you know the characters and the comic book stories more, and like what you connect with better. I just thought the music in the first one was better. That's what I connected with. I don't really enjoy half the soundtrack for the second movie, but I enjoyed everything they did in the first one.
Whoa. We have Lakeshore Drive. We have My Sweet Lord. We have The Chain by Fleetwood Mac. I'm not gonna get too much into it. I'm just saying. Awesome Mix Volume.
Yeah, getting back to Andrew's point.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
What
I'm sorry.
What were we talking about?
Yeah, we were talking about Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. That's right.
Yeah. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say, Andrew, you make a very valid point. But like, yeah, the rewatchability of this movie. I mean, I would definitely rewatch it. I mean, maybe it's something that would like bother me long term. You know, like those like tiny bits of like, you know, information that stick out, and you know, things that kind of it's like cheesiness. What I will say
is this actually made me want to rewatch the original Spider-Man trilogy.
Yeah.
Like I missed that how I felt watching those.
I think you're gonna be a little disappointed.
Maybe.
Some of those haven't
I've had some friends that rewatched it, and
I'll follow up and I'll let you know.
Okay, please.
Those movies, in my opinion, have not aged as well as some people think. I mean, it's kind of like when I watch Batman and Robin, the George Clooney one.
Yeah.
I know it's cheesy as heck, and that one is probably a bad example because that movie was cheesy when it came out as more cheesy
deliberately.
now. But you know, like it's like a guilty pleasure movie of mine. I think the original 3 Spider-Man movies didn't age as well, but there is like
probably
a sense of wonder.
One,
because again, like in this version, and even in the Amazing Spider-Man, like there was a sense of wonder because it wasn't like in those versions of the character, or in those versions of the character's world, there were like Avengers running around, and then you know you had a bunch of you had aliens and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So there was and then what they did is they showed a lot more of like the normal people in the world of that movie and how they react and interact with the superhero. Whereas I think that's been missing. The
other ones felt like comic books.
Huh?
The other ones felt like comic books.
Right.
Lately, the Marvel movies have really felt like movies, or even like a mini-series.
Yeah.
Because everything's so interconnected.
Yeah, well, I think more so than ever nowadays, it feels like everything Marvel does feels like one episode that you know is equal parts.
Cinematography
trying
has
to
gotten better.
set up the next one. It takes away from.
I think the writing has gotten a little better.
I don't know. I disagree. I think they have almost turned into like graphic novels because you're seeing more of like superhero cameos. Like you see a little more interaction because, you know, those whatever legal agreements are a little more lax. Like you can have Daredevil be on screen with Spider-Man now and be his lawyer. You know?
Yeah, he's a really good lawyer.
I actually really liked that line. I thought that
was a great scene. It was just like and you know, like when the camera shot that introduces him, come on, like the whole tilt, what would you call that? Like it's like a nice camera move they got going on.
Bailey. I love you, but you got to go away. I'm working.
You have a special guest appearance on the show today.
No, so that was the first time Daredevil had made an appearance in the MCU.
Well, proper, yes, because before Marvel Television was doing those Netflix series, and they were technically in the MCU, but they weren't ever addressed by the movies, although the series themselves mentioned events in the movies. So it wasn't reciprocal, and it's always been a question of, well, are those characters officially part of the MCU or not, because they weren't being worked on by Kevin Feige's team. Kevin Feige was always on the Marvel Studios side, and Marvel Television was its own division. And then in recent years, they've merged everything together, so now everything is under Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios. So there was a question of, are they going to recast these characters? Are they going to reboot them? Are those older iterations considered official, like canon? But you know, in Hawkeye now, they've got Kingpin coming back, and Vincent D'Onofrio is going to be playing him. Again, spoiler warning. We already gave that warning, so you shouldn't, be listening to this if you don't want to be spoiled. But
stop.
Yeah,
he was in the Daredevil show, right? So it's, I don't know exactly how, like, if they're saying, oh, those shows are canon, or if they're just saying, oh, these are like same actors playing the same characters, but not, they're a new iteration of it with the same actors playing the same characters, but not necessarily making all these other TV shows canon to the MCU proper. But
have you guys been watching the Hawkeye show?
No.
A little bit.
I'm waiting for all the episodes to drop. Like, there's one more left, I think, and then I'm gonna watch it all in one go.
So this might be a spoiler, and maybe it probably won't even happen. That we still have that last episode to go, but one of the friends I went with has been keeping up with the show, and Hawkeye and Spider-Man are both based in New York, and at the very end of the movie, he's going to some call on the police station. And Dan, you have something? You know where I'm going with this?
Sort of. Go ahead. And again, I haven't seen the show, but I've kept up with it enough to know. Yeah.
But people are saying, well, he said that the call he's going to is a direct reference to the Hawkeye show and the final battle, the final episode. And
I mean, he swings by the same. Isn't he swing by the Rockefeller tree or something?
Is this
which is a big part of they've shown it in all the promotional stuff, and it's. I'm not sure if it's been part of any of the episodes that have already dropped on Hawkeye.
Yeah.
So.
Is this the post-credit scene you're talking about?
No, this is at the very end of the movie, where he's wearing the classic red and blue costume and swinging away.
Oh, that was one of my favorite parts of the whole thing. I'm like, yes, they gave him his old creaky apartment.
He's broke again. Let's go, people.
Yes.
Yeah.
No more Tony Stark assistants. This is not the rich Spider-Man that we have become used to. This is, I felt like the Peter Parker side of this character really grew a lot in this movie, and then they decided, let's go back to the roots of what he is in the comics, and remove a lot of the crutches that the MCU version of the Spider-Man has had. I feel like there were crutches the last few movies. Well,
the truth comes out. So, what I did not stay for the post-credit scene. What is it? What did I miss? What is that thing?
Are you talking about the mid-credit scene?
I did not stay for the credits. What did I miss?
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Brian,
I had
you
to
want
be
spoil this
somewhere.
for him?
No, I'll let Daniel spoil this.
No, Brian, come on. Brian, by the way, is the one who's literally seen this movie only hours ago from when we were taping this, so he's got it.
I know. I'm not as versed though on the characters and stuff. I know that Doctor Strange meets up with someone. What is her name, Daniel?
Well, are you talking about the post-credit scene or the mid-credit?
Tell me what.
Well, the mid-credit is with Eddie Brock.
Mid-credit scene.
Eddie Brock.
Yeah.
Eddie Brock, as in Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
You're right.
Sony
no, the last, the post credits was Doctor Strange. You're right.
Yeah, because at the end of the Venom movie. Sorry, Brian, you go ahead.
No, somebody else's. So basically, it shows. It shows Eddie Brock sitting at the bar. He's talking to a bartender. He's in Mexico, right? I believe.
He's somewhere in Mexico. Yeah, because that's where.
Somewhere in Mexico.
Yeah. That's where you leave him off in the post-credit scene of Venom: Let There Be Carnage, because he gets transported into a different dimension, and he sees that he's basically
he's
right
talking
at the end
about
of Far From Home, Spider-Man: Far From Home.
The need to go meet up with.
Identity's been revealed.
Right. Well, he's talking about the need to go meet up with Spider-Man, basically, right? And then basically gets sucked. Yeah, he gets sucked through the dimension, whatever you call it.
Well, most of him does.
Yeah, exactly. And then a piece of him was left behind.
A piece of Venom. that is.
Yeah, a piece of
not a piece of Eddie Brock.
Right,
Piece of
right.
Venom. That
Yeah,
would be
Right.
weird.
So
No Topher Grace cameo anywhere in there.
No.
Missed
No, but they do
opportunity,
hint at
Marvel.
it.
Yeah, really.
They do hint because like Venom is talking to Eddie Brock in his head, and he's like, well, all versions of Venom, like, you know, they're like the Venom symbiotes are all have a hive mind, and they're all connected to each other through all the different multiversal versions of themselves, iterations of themselves. So that's how that version of the Venom knows about a Spider-Man even existing, because you know, in the Sony version of those movies, there is no Spider-Man, at least not that we know of. Where the Tom Hardy movies take place, but then when he gets, you know, sucked into the Spider-Man MCU version of the universe, that's where he recognizes Spider-Man on TV, like his Peter Parker's identity is being revealed by J. Jonah Jameson, and he sees that and he's like, oh, I know that guy, or something to that effect. So I think that's how they're gonna play it off. So the assumption is that maybe by extension of all the Venoms kind of knowing each other or having been connected to the hive mind, that the Topher Grace version of Venom, probably the memories of that this version of Venom has from some point in time, I guess. So yeah, there's a connection.
We should follow up on that. Okay, and then finally.
Yeah, in the post-credit scene, Daniel, who does Doctor Strange meet up with?
The post-credit scene is a teaser for Doctor Strange into the Multiverse of Madness. So the next movie that's coming out from the MCU, I think it's now moved back to like May. It's not. It was supposed to come out earlier in the springtime. I think it got pushed further into like basically summertime. And that's gonna be the second Doctor Strange movie. It's all about, you know, fighting to fix the multiverse, which apparently breaks at the start of the movie. And so the teaser kind of goes through, you know, the basic beats of the film, and Wanda Maximoff's gonna be involved. So so you see, what's her name? Is it Elizabeth Olsen? Yeah,
yes, Elizabeth Olsen.
She was in WandaVision recently, and you know she's gonna be coming back. And do you want me to tell you, because in the teaser trailer they kind of show you who perhaps is gonna be the main villain of the film?
Sure.
Well, I mean, that was already spoiled in like the end of the first Doctor Strange movie.
Well, no, not Mordo. That's not. Did you not watch?
You're already halfway through telling us.
Oh, never mind. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Right? Because Mordo says, and because unfortunately, Steven, the greatest threat to the multiverse is you. And then we see like a slightly eviler looking Doctor Strange, and staring at him is our version of Doctor Strange, which we are familiar with. So I don't know. People were saying this sort of connects to the Doctor Strange Ultimate version, I guess, which they explored in the What If series, or definitely that's a version of the character from this comics. So
I still need to check that out, by the way. I heard that was phenomenal as well. The What If series kind of explains a lot of the tie-ins, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of different things happening, and I mean, some of the episodes I've actually only seen the first episode all the way through, but then I've heard a lot, like from a lot of people who have watched the rest of it, that, you know, it's sort of, there's some episodes that are good, some not so good. There was a lot of questions about whether all of it was canon or not, like, or it was just like an animated show that just happened to, you know, take place MCU adjacent.
But that's the thing about a multiverse. Even a What If is canon, because it's every possible reality.
Right. Well, I think over time, that's kind of what people came to accept, because Kevin Feige, you know how he is Kevin Feige has a tendency to say a lot without saying anything. So, but I think he started hinting enough that, you know, the MCU it is MCU canon. So like in some version of the MCU, we could potentially see Haley Atwell come back in the live action version of the movies playing Captain Britain. That would be fun to see, for example, or seeing Thor go on a on like a rager across the many worlds, and that was a funny episode. Or like doing aren't they doing like a zombies TV show, like an animated Marvel zombies show now on Disney Plus, which is sort of going to be a spin-off of one of the episodes of the What If season 1, which I think is also going to have a season 2. So they're definitely like still continuing with that. It was, I guess, you know, it's not.
There's also like tons of different variation of comics, like Marvel comics about that.
So Now that we've done 3 of these Spider-Man movies, is that it, or are we expecting more?
Well, so Amy Pascal, who's like the lead producer from Sony's side, she used to lead the Sony's movie division for a long time. Certainly like the Spider-Man side of things. Now she's got an overall deal with Sony, so she's not really like a Sony executive, but she is a producer who works with Sony on those movies. So she's produced every single one of those movies, right from the first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire to the Andrew Garfield, and the newest ones within the MCU. And Kevin Feige, who, as we all know, is the president of Marvel Studios, and been there from the beginning in Iron Man 2008. Both of those guys, they spoke with the New York Times recently, and they were talking about, obviously, the first question the guy asked is, well, what's happening next? Like, where are we going with this? I mean, are you gonna reboot this thing or what? Like, is there a sequel in the works? And Kevin Feige basically said, like, what we don't want to have happen is like fans get like separation anxiety or something to that effect that he said, or separation trauma, I think is the term that he used, which is what happened after Far From Home, because there was this thing about, well, are we doing a sequel or are we not doing a sequel? Like there was some like stuff up in the air, and then they renewed their deal and so on and so forth. But Sony and Marvel, that is. But this time they said we are in active development on a sequel, and or I don't think he said a sequel per se. I think he said something to the effect of we are working on actively developing the story and where it goes from here, basically implying that this is not it for this version of the character. And that kind of falls in line with how this movie ends, right? It feels like the way they ended the movie is they really bookended those previous all 3 of those movies you've seen with Tom Holland so far, and left the character in a spot where it feels like it's not the beginning of the end, but rather the end of the beginning. And there have been rumors for a long time that they were going to do 3 trilogies with Spider-Man, like whereas 3 of them are in high school, 3 of them are in college, and then I guess maybe if they get that far, they'll do 3 more where he's
those would have to be
part of the Avengers. Like he's
those would have to be
Avenger,
Spider-Girl, where it's in 2045 and Spider-Man's daughter is Spider-Girl.
I mean,
Those
look, the MCU is already technically in 2023 because people keep forgetting, like, the events of this movie technically take place in 2023. So it's already in the future, and I suppose if you made it that far, Tom Holland might be, like, 40 years old, and we might be in 2045 anyway. So.
Tobey Maguire is definitely old enough if we want to start watching those movies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think by the way, I gotta say, they played off that whole... what did they call him? Like a middle-aged pastor sort of a thing, like in the movie.
Oh yeah,
the
just
cool
like
pastor.
That was great.
That was again one of those things that I really enjoyed. They really they didn't just like go around the edges. They just totally dove into it, and he was counseling the other 2 Spider-Men for like the majority of the time he was on screen. The scene when Andrew Garfield it's just going through, or like he's like, oh man, I was the lamest version of the character and all that, and he's like, no, you're amazing. You should start with that. You're amazing. And I was just giggling the whole time because I'm like, this is too meta and too good, because I haven't and you know what, to be honest, that to me is probably gives me a good sense of maybe what they will do with the non-rated R version of the Deadpool character, or at least like when I think the Deadpool movies themselves will stay rated R, but like if they ever cross them over with the rest of the MCU, like how could they make a not rated R version of Deadpool work? Would be something like that, where you're meta and you're obviously poking fun at things, but you don't have to be explicit about it. Like you're not swearing and things of that nature.
Sure.
So.
Well, I mean, that's. Is there anything that we missed? Is there anything that you guys before we?
Yeah, Andrew. Actually, there was one thing I did want to throw in there real quick too. The fact that all 3 Spider-Mans too, like they lost somebody they loved. Like Tobey Maguire losing Uncle Ben. Andrew Garfield losing Emma Stone's character.
Yeah.
And
when she fell. Yeah. And obviously Tom Holland losing Marissa Tomei as Aunt May. I mean,
was young for an Aunt May. I was not familiar with this
She
version
looked
of
way
Aunt
too
May.
young for what we are used to for Aunt May, but I can kind of see it.
Right, what we're used to, but I still think she did a pretty good job.
It was a different kind of relationship. I'm accepting it. I'm just saying I was surprised.
I thought this movie did a better job with Aunt May than the previous 2 movies did. Like this was the version. Yeah. This was the closest thing that I actually could see her like, oh, she's a responsible adult Aunt May who's like an idol that he looks up to, and
I don't know if it necessarily did a better job, Daniel, but I think both of them have both of them have their merits. You know what I mean? I think in a way, because it was two different perspectives. I think when you look at it, like two different ages too. You know what I mean? So, like this was obviously a younger aunt, but I just wanted to point out too, like what she said to basically Tom Holland before she died, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
Circles back more to like, with great power there must always come great. It was a
butchering. Yeah. She didn't even get it right.
It circled back to what Uncle Ben said to just let me say it.
Go ahead. It was nice. Like I
come on, guys.
I think they call it out in the movie too.
They do.
Yeah.
Like later on when the other two Spider-Men show up, they literally complete each other's sentences. Yeah.
But it was nice because they've been
circled back
like
to
they've been like playing around it for so long, but without actually saying it. I think they were even making jokes like in Spider-Man's first appearance in Civil War, where when he's talking to Tony and he's saying something, he's like, when you have power like mine, like you have to do these things. And I've seen so many memes where it's like, just with great power comes great responsibility. Is that what you're trying to say?
Say it.
Just say that. Just say that instead.
Yeah.
I was not expecting this. Maybe, I don't know if this is in the other movies either, but Jonah J. Jameson as essentially Alex Jones.
Oh, I was so ready for it.
Jonah Jameson. But
I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's another meta thing.
Because he was in the other series.
He was in the Tobey Maguire one.
Yeah.
But
I thought it was very
They updated him for the time, and you know what? I love his evolution throughout the movie because you see him at the beginning, where he's like sitting in his basement with a green screen behind him, and like I am, not in my basement though, but and then by the end of the movie, he's got like a cable network studio, and you can see like this dude just went from being Alex Jones to being like Fox News or something like that. It's like a huge transition, but it's a great way to modernize that character versus like what we are used to comic books wise and what we saw in the Tobey Maguire version. And maybe if Andrew Garfield's version had a third movie, they would have introduced that character, but they didn't.
Yeah.
What I wanted to see was Maguire's Peter Parker run into or see J. Jonah Jameson at some point in the movie, and then see that interaction.
Yeah.
But that was one of those unfulfilled things that didn't happen.
If there's more movies,
that would have been another meta thing that could have gotten to see.
I'm sure there's all kinds of deleted scenes where they play around with stuff like that.
Well, because they never shared the screen in any scenes, so I don't know if they would have been on the set at any point they were together, but I can imagine like if that becomes like a Blu-ray exclusive or something, I would totally be watching that on repeat. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's about it for us, but I actually have an MCU tie-in for this show.
Okay.
Yeah, you probably didn't know this, but I do the occasional on-camera commercial, and at one point I did a commercial that was for Dell and Spider-Man Far From Home, and I was actually a body double for Peter Parker. And so in another universe, I was Peter Parker. The only thing is that they deep faked Tom Holland's face onto my body.
So I gotta look for your body. Like I need to know. Now I'm gonna be studying my Spider-Man commercials.
Yeah, I have it. I'll send it on the group.
Please send that link. I gotta see that.
Yeah, and my hands. That's definitely my hands. Get a good look at them. But they're typing on a brand new Dell.
Gotcha. You can't sling webs out of your arms though, right?
No, I had to get cartridges. I was a cartridge guy.
All right. Do you have to make them in the lab like Andrew Garfield?
It takes hours. I lose 5 hours of sleep a week. Okay. Well, I think we did a good job tackling this thing.
Yeah.
It was a good movie. Yeah. It was a fun one to talk about. I think Max has
ratings. Guys. Can we rate it?
Do we want to rate it?
Do we have to?
I want to rate it.
Okay, give us a rating. Give us a rating, Brian.
Well, out of 10, I'm going to give it. You guys are going to probably have much different rating, but out of a 10, I am going to give it a 9.5. I was that impressed with it. I was very happy with the movie. 9.5 out of 10.
Nice.
Roland, did you want to give a
I'm going to say very good.
Very good.
That's my
Dan?
rating.
So Roland gives it a 9.5 like
Very
me.
good.
I,
On a scale of
I just
great.
hate that. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a slippery slope when you start, like, art is subjective, so I don't want to necessarily put a number on it. But if I had to, I think I actually posted a review on my Twitter account, the Dan Show 945. I should have posted it on Oh So Curious, but anyway, I think I gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
Okay.
So
Wow.
like just about the same as what Brian said. Which honestly, I was surprised as to how high I went with it, but maybe that was because I'm still like feeling a lot of the good vibes from the movie.
Sure.
Maybe I'll like once that wears off, that rating goes down. But yeah, I still don't think it's maybe the top. I don't think it's the top, one of the best Spider-Man movies ever done. Like I still think the Amazing Spider-Man movies were better overall, and then I think past that you go to the original Spider-Man trilogy, and then you come to this maybe. But still, I mean, this is, like I said, the best Spider-Man movie I've seen in almost a decade. So 4.5 out of 5 I think is a good number.
Wow.
Fair enough.
And I'll
Andrew,
say
no rating?
it was fun.
Okay.
So it was better than okay. It was fun.
It was better than okay.
That's
Okay.
something. I'm not going to
That's
push it
something.
anymore.
No,
It's
than that.
something
listen.
coming from Andrew.
I
It
had
really
a
is.
good time watching it.
Okay.
Good job,
We'll
Marvel.
take that.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's it for us today. I'm Andrew. That's Brian. That's Roland. That's Dan. This has been Oh So Curious. This is a good time.
I'm
See
gonna
you
go
next
grocery
time.
shopping now.
Yeah. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share the video, and come back and see
Yeah,
us
let us
next
know what
week.
you thought about the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
too.
Let
Tell
us
us your
know.
favorite meme.
Alrighty, guys. I'll see you
All
next
right.
week.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Spider-Man's name is Peter Parker. What the